Dr. David Allen, and I hope you're listening because Canon Campbell is giving a challenge to our nation. He's talking about the roots of our nation. He's talking about our heart, our worship, our faith, our God. You gave a beautiful example of Canon William Granger and Rodney, the educator.
Yes.
Rodney Bain,
priest and
an educator.
Educator came together, and literally transformed the place. And one element I didn't add was that at that time, Father Granger was a single person. He lived in the rectory. That's a church's house where the priest would live. And he converted it into a hostel, which meant that boys from all over Cat Island were able to attend the high school in Artistown and lived at the rectory.
What a great man he was.
Lived at the rectory. He's a great
Anybody
man.
write a book about his life? Is there something written about that?
No, there's nothing written,
No.
unfortunately. All right, I have a snippet of him in a book that I wrote called Legends of Cat Island. I talked about him and Rodney Bain in that book, but I think greater justice ought to be done to them. All right, great men from all over Cat Island that became leaders in this country.
So you're saying illiteracy is something we're facing seriously in the Bahamas now?
Oh, illiteracy is one of our main social problems, and the government is spending.
It's worse now than when you first went into the ministry?
Yes, it continues to grow, seriously. And you have to get on the ground. That's why it's challenging the young man. You have to get on the ground and see how this is affecting us. And it so happened, I was led to Program Shaw. That's where I was posted, the Ministry of Education posted me, all right? And there's a school for the girls as well. I forgot the name. There's another school for the girls as well, anyhow. And in our schools, many of our children have this basic problem. They can't read, they cannot write. And that is across our country. And so I was challenging that young man, whatever parish you go in, whether you go to Acklands, Crooked Island, Donkey, Cat Island, wherever you go, get into the system and help with this situation that we have. Because if you can't read, you can't write, you're unemployable, who wants you? You are danger. People are dangerous if they can't express themselves. And so somebody do something, and you can't really use a language, they start cursing you out, using bad words, and then they soon start fighting. And then before you know what, there's a situation that nobody likes. All right? And that,
Are you saying maybe our violence problem with the young boys, and particularly, is because of illiteracy?
absolutely. I will.
That's a powerful insight.
I would swear to that. And the government spends a lot of money, but unfortunately, what is happening is really not touching our children at this level. All right, we need to bring in more experts into this field of literacy. All right, and we need to spend more money within that. More manpower, woman power, need to be invested within that context. All right, I haven't studied in Barbados. I did 4 years of study at the university in Barbados, and I know literacy is high on their agenda. All right, the government.
And why is that so in Barbados and not here?
We slow. We're slow in catching on. All right, I don't know why, but it seems as though we just tend to drag our feet too often. All right, in Barbados, the government finances your education up to the first degree, up to a BA. That is guaranteed to Barbadians. And then there was a government that came in just a few years ago to try to take that financing away from the people, and they lost the election big time. And has been restored. All right? And so, yes, we are spending money, yes, but we need to again look at what we're doing and to see how so many have been left behind because of this social problem we're not attending to. And then from this pool of persons who are well invested in education, in their reading and writing, that's basic to any education, we draw a pool in building the nation. All right? Far beyond where we are. So education was one of those, the lack of it was one of those realities that I thought I had to give to him because, two, he's a trained teacher.
Huh.
He's a trained teacher. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Education.
Wow.
So I was ready to tell him, go and use the tool that you have. And don't put it up thinking that you're just called to be in the pulpit and preach and thus says the Lord. You have to go and do what the Lord says, okay? I also try to bring home a reality that is really a nuisance, part of the context in which ministry must be done. Is to look at the obesity we have in this country. It is a serious problem, all right? And it seems as though, I don't know if I'm wrong, the church isn't addressing it at all. And I just wonder if more ministers and challenging him to be among those who can preach sermons on the body being a temple of the Holy Spirit. Do you hear sermons on that? We are destroying this as a nation, and it was spoken about in the House of Assembly, and it's amazing how the politicians are talking about it, and the government and the opposition seem to be on the same page as far as this is concerned. But the church seems to be in wonderland and not dealing with it, all right? We have too many obese pastors, all right? Our job is not just to talk about the spiritual. Our job is to know that God is concerned about mind, body, and spirit. And we need to be concerned about the whole man. What's happening in our country today? All hospitals are being filled up with persons fighting diabetes, diabetics number 2. All hospitals being filled up with persons with dialysis, and that is draining the coffers of our country. Hypertension, heart problems, all right? Heart is the number 1 killer in the Bible, as I was told, by the way, all right? And so we need to challenge these churches that we're in who tend to be destroying people and trying to make money, all right? What do we serve around our churches? Cakes and tarts and sodas and Vitamals and these things that destroy people. And thank God the government again is making some effort with the lunch programs in our schools. Again, the government is ahead of us. The former Prime Minister, he gave a challenge and asking leaders within our family islands, please make sure that you do everything in your power to avoid these franchises from coming to the family islands to destroy family islanders like destroying people within New Providence. All right? How many in the church are preaching that message? Afraid to preach that message. All right? God is concerned about mind, body, and spirit. And we have to deal with that. All right? Obesity is destroying us as a country. We need to educate, use the powers of the pulpit, man, to teach, and have seminars on health and nutrition. All right? Right now, we talk about universal health care. The church is not a part, the church is going to be caught on the wrong side of history. The church is not pushing this whole concept of universal health care. All right? National health insurance at a catastrophic level. Thank God the government has come far with primary care. All right? But the church must get engaged in this campaign for better mind, body, and spirit. Liver disease, destroying people, carrying them to the early death. All right? And we are not making our message or ministry relevant within this context. And so I pray, God, that that message got home, all right? That we as leaders in the church must be more upfront in trying to teach, in trying to redirect the church All right? The bottom line, the church too often, I said it too, is just seem to be making money. We want to talk about enhancing buildings and properties, etc. But the primary property is the body. And we must deal with that. Look at what we are serving around our churches, have educational forums, and let's deal with these enemies of our people that are destroying us and filling up hospital beds unnecessarily. And so I pray, God, that was part of the natural context that I tried to elevate at that time. And so persons would have said the sermon was not what a regular sermon is. They probably just come here, Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Jesus saves what?
Yeah. But it was a powerful challenge to the Bahamas.
Yes.
The thing you went into was a governmental survey on suicide and alcohol.
Yes, that's a part of it. 1 in every 5 young men, I think the statistics came out saying, has attempted suicide, and some have succeeded, unfortunately, in committing suicide. And it's amazing that we are where we are right now.
Well, we still have the suicide has 3 components. There's the suicidal thoughts. Women outnumber men in that. There's suicidal attempts. For completed suicides, men still
outnumber women
because we use more drastic measures. But there's something, because I don't know how accurate surveys are. My work is mainly studies. But in one of my programs in Campbell the other night, it was a group of about maybe 15 people, but 4 young people there wanted to kill themselves.
Wow.
So there's something going on. What is it, Canon?
I would ask you the question. That is your area of expertise. I can only opine. We need to look again at why are people not happy. We need to struggle with that. Because if you were happy, you wouldn't attempt suicide with it. You wouldn't commit suicide.
It's hard.
If you're happy.
Hard.
The essence of our existence is we want to be happy.
We've uncovered a number of, I have these family programs in different parts of the island, so I have a research protocol that can give me feedback. And the factors we've come up with is a powerful loneliness factor in the Bahamas.
Yes.
And loneliness means that there's a gap between my external life and my internal life. That external gap may have a lot of things, girlfriends, boyfriends, money, but I can't satisfy that inner need of hope and meaning. So they talk about being lonely.
Yes.
The other thing is, everybody's saying they're tired. The teenagers say they're tired. The young 20s say they're tired. The middle-aged say they're tired. And the old people say they're tired. Everybody is tired. I've just had enough. What is that, Father?
Just had enough, as you said. And this whole sense, we need to explore what really leads to this. Is mental tiredness, physical tiredness. What kind of tiredness is you really tired searching for answers and can't find answers? All young people say that they're stressed out. They have no bills, mortgage and rent and this, etc. They're stressed out. All right?
The other thing I say is sometimes, for example, for a young person to get living quarters, it's getting more and more difficult. And if you get living quarters, sometimes it's in a place where you don't feel safe. And so that it's a feeling there's no futurity. Unless you have some father or mother to help you, how are you going to make it to find a place to live? And a number have said that. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Ken.
It makes sense, yeah. But too, we have to realize that there are certain things that we think that we are entitled to as human beings. And if we don't get it, then it stresses you, it tires you. Well, for example, too many children are suffering from father hunger in this country. Too many. Too many children don't know who their daddy is. And I guess you could destroy anybody mentally with that. You don't know who your daddy is? I can't imagine what would happen to me if I didn't know who my daddy really was, and to be able to live within that environment that I am entitled to as a human being, with mother and father and siblings. All right? I live in heaven and didn't realize it. All right? 'Cause I had my daddy, I had my mother, my siblings, and we play, we fight,
So
we
how
play,
do
we
we-
fight, and it was a natural.
As a canon, how do we handle this unbridled sexuality, where men see women as a way to have sex but not to have responsibility for the child?
And
How do we change that?
why women allow it too? That's a big question that the country needs to wrestle with. 80%, I wonder that still holds. But I was told the last time, 80% of our children are born outside of wedlock. That is serious. That is not being,
So you're saying the women?
Talked about.
You're saying the women are playing into it as well?
of course, they're equal partners within this context. All right? And so
You're saying to the young priest, you must explore this.
it must be explored if you're going to find some kind of answer within ministry. All right?
But does spirituality change sexuality?
Should. If
Does
is-
it?
If it is authentic, it should change many things. Spirituality ought to change many things. It should change me, it should change you. We should be daily being changed, daily metamorphosis being changed. The government talks about, finding solution to crime. We all talk about finding solution to crime, and we're afraid to put our fingers on what we know the problems really are. Human sexuality is one that must be addressed.
What's the fear? Why are we afraid to?
I don't know.
What's
I
the big
wish I
What's the
knew.
big fear that's blocking us from
I know
doing
why
what we have to
I
do?
know why the politicians are afraid. They get people upset and might lose popularity. But why should you and I be afraid? Why should the church be afraid? Going to lose members? I don't know. We have to risk doing that which we ought to do. Human sexuality must be addressed. And we must talk about it. It must be a conversation if there's going to be any change. All right?
You know, I think
How
that-
often do we talk about it?
The young ladies who have children, they say the guy would wait 6 months before he gives anything. Then they go to court, he catches up. Then he goes another 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And some of them say, Doc, I don't go to court no more. It takes
They
a
give
whole
up.
day. So
Yes.
can we not do something about that? If you have a child, you've got to be committed to pay for it.
Okay, the big question is, why do you have the child in the first place? We need to nip this in the bud. Because really and truly at the level you talk about might be, it's just too late. They just don't care anymore. And they're not realizing that they are producers of some of the criminal activities that we have, persons are fighting for their God-given right as a child. That right I didn't have to fight for, I had. I had that joy and that happiness and that peace, all right, that came from what I believe was the ideal family in which I found myself. All right.
Another factor we uncovered is that there seems to be a high rate of sexual and physical abuse and neglect in our country. I think Kevin's last study in a sample that included the prison and all the marginalized communities showed almost 40%. People said there was some kind of sexual or physical abuse. Now, it's been hidden, but if you notice now in the past few weeks or months, it's coming out in the courts. The big problem I have with that is you can unravel this thing, but if you don't provide the right therapy, you're going to create another problem.
Yes, yes.
But in my family program now, I have many people who've gone through severe abuse, even incest. But you can get help, Canon. But it does take concerted, committed effort. We're going to take a break and be right back.